taking action is the one thing that separates people who achieve their goals from those who don't. We all know what we should do, but often, we hesitate. We wait for motivation, for the perfect moment, or for some magical inspiration to strike. This isn't about waiting for motivation or waiting for that perfect spark, it's about understanding that action comes first, even when your inner voice protests. Today, we'll uncover why waiting for motivation is a trap and how you can develop habits and systems that push you to act, even on your worst days. But what if that never happens? What if the key to progress isn't waiting for motivation but forcing yourself to take action even when you don't feel like it? Let's break down how you can do just that. The myth of motivation. Let's start with a common belief: you need motivation to do anything worthwhile. Many of us have been conditioned to think that if we're not feeling excited or inspired, it's not the right time to start a project, hit the gym, or learn something new. But the truth is, motivation is fickle. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's there in abundance, and other times it's nowhere to be found. If you wait for motivation, chances are you'll be stuck in a cycle of inaction. The reality is that action creates momentum and eventually motivation follows. Think back to a time when you didn't feel like starting something but did it anyway. Maybe you forced yourself to get up early for a workout or pushed through a writing session. Once you got started, you probably found that you began to enjoy the process, even if you were initially reluctant. That's the core idea: action fuels motivation, not the other way around. Lowering the barrier, the power of small steps. One of the most effective ways to overcome an action is to lower the barrier to entry. The more difficult something appears, the more your mind will create resistance. Imagine that your goal is to start running every morning. Instead of focusing on the full 5K run, start with something simple: just put on your running shoes and step outside. By reducing the task to its smallest possible component, you remove the intimidation factor and set the stage for success. This approach is sometimes called breaking it down or microtasking. Whether it's starting a project or beginning a workout, make the first step so simple that you can't say no. Over time, these small actions will compound, creating the momentum you need to take on bigger challenges. The 5-second rule: interrupting hesitation. A powerful tool that many have used to jumpstart action is the 5-second rule. The idea here is straightforward: the moment you feel an impulse to act, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and then move. The countdown gives your brain just enough time to start the process without giving it time to overthink or come up with excuses. It's a method to push past that initial moment of hesitation. The beauty of this rule lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require a detailed plan or an abundance of motivation, just a willingness to act on impulse. With practice, the countdown becomes a trigger that shifts your focus from thinking to doing, effectively bypassing the mental roadblocks that usually keep you stuck. Committing to just 2 minutes. Another technique to force yourself into action is to commit to doing a task for only 2 minutes. It sounds almost too simple to work, but often, the hardest part of any task is simply getting started. Whether it's writing an email, organizing your workspace, or even starting a complex project, set a timer for 2 minutes and give it your all. In most cases, you'll find that once you've started, you naturally want to continue beyond the initial 2 minutes. The 2-minute rule acts as a gentle push, allowing you to overcome the inertia of inaction without feeling overwhelmed by the scope of the task ahead. Once you've started, you're more likely to ride that wave of momentum and complete the task. Removing decision fatigue. Every day, we make countless decisions: what to eat, what to wear, how to spend our time. This barrage of choices can lead to decision fatigue, a state where our willpower and mental energy are depleted. When decision fatigue sets in, even the smallest choice can feel like a mountain to climb. To combat this, simplify your routines as much as possible. Plan your schedule in advance. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Prepare your meals ahead of time. By automating small decisions, you conserve mental energy for more significant tasks and reduce the chances of getting bogged down by trivial choices. When you eliminate unnecessary decisions, you clear the path for action to flow more freely. Building a system, not just chasing goals. Goals are important, they give us direction and a destination to strive for. But goals alone are not enough. Often, we set lofty ambitions, only to find ourselves paralyzed by the gap between where we are and where we want to be. The key to sustained progress lies in creating a system, a daily routine or series of habits that naturally guide you toward your goal without requiring constant bursts of motivation. For example, if your goal is to write a book, instead of fixating on the final product, focus on writing every day for a set period. Systems emphasize the process rather than the outcome. They make action habitual. When you commit to a system, you're not relying on the unpredictable waves of motivation. You're building a routine that propels you forward regardless of your mood. Accountability and consequences. Accountability can be a powerful motivator. When you share your goals with others, you create an external incentive to follow through. This could be as simple as telling a friend about your plans or joining a group that shares similar aspirations. Sometimes, introducing a small consequence for an action can make a big difference, such as committing to donate money to a cause you're not in favor of if you fail to meet your target. By setting up accountability, you introduce an element of social pressure that can help keep you on track. The idea isn't to punish yourself harshly, but rather to create a structure where you're encouraged to act even when your internal drive is lacking. This external commitment can be just what you need to push through the moments of doubt and hesitation. Shifting your identity. One of the most profound ways to force yourself into action is to change the way you view yourself. Instead of thinking, "I need to get motivated to exercise," reframe your mindset to, "I am an active person." This subtle shift in language and identity can have a lasting impact. When you see yourself as someone who is disciplined and proactive, your actions start to align with that identity. This isn't just about positive affirmations, it's about building a consistent pattern of behavior. Every time you act in alignment with your desired identity, you reinforce that image in your mind. Over time, the new identity becomes the norm. This method of identity reinforcement makes it easier to take action because your actions and your sense of self begin to work in tandem. Dealing with resistance and fear. Let's face it, resistance is always going to be there. Whether it's fear of failure, self-doubt, or simple laziness, there's always something trying to convince you that it's better to stay put than to take a risk. The key is to recognize that these feelings, while natural, are not indicators of what you should do. They're simply part of the human experience, and they don't have to dictate your actions. When you feel that pull toward an action, remind yourself that you don't have to wait for the perfect moment. In fact, there rarely is one. The perfect moment is an illusion. Every time you push through resistance, you train your brain to act despite the fear. With each action, the fear diminishes, and the habit of action strengthens. Instead of engaging in a mental tug-of-war, commit to a decision and act. Over time, you'll find that the internal voice of doubt becomes quieter and less influential. Your history of action starts to speak louder than your present fears. Harness the power of momentum. Imagine trying to push a massive boulder uphill. Initially, the resistance feels overwhelming, and every inch seems impossible. But once you manage to get the boulder moving, it takes far less effort to keep it rolling. This is the essence of momentum. The first push is always the hardest, but each subsequent push builds on the last, making the overall effort easier. Momentum isn't just a physical phenomenon, it applies to all aspects of life. Every time you take action, even if it's a small one, you're building a foundation that makes it easier to continue. The habits you form eventually become self-sustaining. Instead of relying on fleeting motivation, you rely on the strength of your accumulated efforts. Think of momentum as a virtuous cycle. The more you act, the easier it becomes to act again. This cycle is what transforms goals into achievements. It's why starting is the most critical step in any process. Once you get rolling, you'll often find that the next step is already waiting for you, and before you know it, you're well on your way to success. Overcoming procrastination. A significant enemy of action is procrastination. It's that nagging habit of putting off what needs to be done, promising yourself that tomorrow will be the day when you finally get started. But the problem with procrastination is that tomorrow never really comes if you keep postponing. It's a subtle thief that robs you of time and potential. To combat procrastination, you need to develop an awareness of your patterns. Identify the tasks that you tend to delay and break them down into manageable parts. Set a clear deadline for each part and hold yourself accountable. Sometimes, writing down your goals and tracking your progress can serve as a powerful reminder of what you need to accomplish. The key is to create a sense of urgency and to view each small task as a stepping stone toward a larger achievement. Turning action into habit. Ultimately, the goal is to make taking action a natural part of who you are. This requires consistency. Every day, dedicate a specific block of time to working on your goals, whether it's writing, exercising, or learning a new skill. The more you practice acting even when you don't feel like it, the more it becomes embedded in your routine. Habits are the result of repeated actions. Over time, these actions become automatic, and you no longer have to battle your inner resistance. They become part of your identity. With habits in place, you're no longer relying on motivation, you're following a system that consistently pushes you forward. Reflection and reward. As you force yourself into action day after day, it's important to take time to reflect on your progress. Self-reflection not only helps you recognize your achievements but also highlights areas for improvement. Celebrate your small victories, they're the building blocks of long-term success. Rewarding yourself can also reinforce the habit of action. Whether it's a small treat after completing a task or a moment of relaxation, positive reinforcement helps condition your brain to associate taking action with positive outcomes. Over time, these rewards, both internal and external, can serve as powerful motivators to keep moving forward. Forcing yourself to take action isn't about forcing perfection or expecting to feel motivated all the time, it's about building a routine that carries you forward regardless of your mood. When you lower the barriers to entry, implement strategies like the 5-second rule and the 2-minute commitment, remove decision fatigue, and build systems and habits, you pave the way for progress. Remember, every time you choose action over inaction, you reinforce a mindset of resilience and determination. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but every small step is a victory. The power of momentum will eventually take over, turning your initial struggles into an unstoppable force for change. So, here's the challenge: stop waiting for motivation to magically appear. Instead, choose to act, whether you feel like it or not. Embrace the discomfort, overcome the resistance, and let each action build on the last. As you do so, you'll find that the journey toward your goals becomes more natural and fulfilling than you ever imagined. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of how to force yourself to take action. Remember, the results aren't just in the big milestones, they're in the consistent, everyday choices that push you forward. Now, go out there, take that first step, and start creating the future you deserve.